This season of The Intersection could not have been made without Google. More specifically, Google Docs, Google Mail, Google Maps, Google Scholar, Google News, Google Books, Google's YouTube, Google Bikes, and Google Search. These products were integral to the production of this podcast. But to be clear, I received no financial support from Google. In fact, they refused to talk to me. The views expressed by their employees and subcontractors are their own and do not represent the views of Google. And now, a new episode of The Intersection. Maybe you remember it, maybe you don't. But in the last episode, there was a moment. I was talking to Rob Graham, who owns the Sports Page bar right on the corner.
I gotta tell you something.
He asked me to turn the recorder off. There was something he wanted to tell me about his new landlord, Google. Off the record. Then, right before Christmas, I got this message.
Hey, David, good morning. This is Rob Graham over at the Sports Page down at the Intersection. Give me a call and get an opportunity. Thanks.
I knew immediately. He's ready to talk. Welcome back to The Intersection. So what's it like to deal with one of the richest, most powerful companies in the world? What's it like to negotiate with Google when you have something they want? That's what I'm thinking as I arrive at Rob Graham's house near the base of Sutro Tower in San Francisco.
It's okay. Come on in, Dave.
Hi, buddy.
How's it going, kiddo?
Good. How you doing? Good to see you. You called this morning for what reason?
When you started this, 4 buildings were on the corner of the intersection. You can see already they're not all there anymore. So things change very fast.
The building that once housed Overtime Fitness has been leveled. Now it's a massive dirt lot dotted with tractors and various pieces of construction equipment. Soon, it will be a 200-room business hotel. But that's just the beginning.
Google wants to build their Apple spaceship on North Bayshore.
And that's why they spent more than $12 million for the bar's ramshackle building and the third of an acre it sits on.
It was an old private home, belonged to the Googzilla family. My understanding is they bought it in the 40s after one of the family came back from Second World War. You know, it was operated as a bar. It was the Mountain View Beer Garden before us. So it's been there a long, long time. The only reason it's been sold now is that the landlord, the person that I dealt with for all those years, 20 odd years, his name was Steve Googzilla, an absolute gentleman, lovely, lovely man. Unfortunately, he passed away. And his kids turned around and sold it immediately. Whole different world.
Now that Google is his landlord, Rob worries about the future of his bar.
Since they acquired the property, they also asked me to give up half the time I have left, remaining on the lease.
Legally, he doesn't have to leave until the last day of his lease in 2023. But he's playing the long game.
We don't want to see this disappear. A lot of our staff have been there 10, 20 years, some of them, a long time. They're ready to take over from when the time comes, because it would be a fabulous thing to do. Maybe we get another 40 or 50 years out of it. So that's why this isn't a money thing. This isn't about give me a check and I'll go away. You want to build on the land that you own, that's great. Except I own the rights to the land for the next 5.5 years. It's a little bit of leverage, but leverage is only important if you intend to screw somebody or give them a hard time. That's not what we're looking to do here. I don't want to fight. You don't fight Godzilla, You run and hide from Godzilla, or you feed Godzilla and keep him happy, one way or the other.
Especially if Godzilla has leverage of its own. You see, how Google and the Sports Page got to this juncture is a bit complicated.
This whole thing started about 2 years ago. Google was in competition to get the buildable space on the North Bayshore because they had their own desire to build their flagship.
The city council solicited proposals for what could be built there. Google, LinkedIn, and a host of real estate developers presented competing plans.
LinkedIn won that competition to acquire the land. The first immediate changes were and this is before the deal closed, LinkedIn very quickly pointed out to me that I was now, because I have what's called a triple net lease, and for those who don't know what a triple net is, I'm responsible for everything. I pay all the bills, I pay all the property tax, I pay all the maintenance, I pay all the utility, I pay everything, which I've always known that. It's never been a problem with doing that. But property tax becomes an issue when they sell the property for mega millions. All of a sudden, technically, I'm on the hook for a lot of money. It could be, I don't know, anywhere from $110,000 to $140,000 per year, just property tax.
And what are you paying now?
I want to say it's $6 or $7 grand a year, whatever the original family rate was when they bought it back forever and ever, plus the cost of living increases. So,
But then Google negotiated a massive land swap with LinkedIn. Google would get what they wanted in North Bayshore, including the sports page property. And in exchange, LinkedIn would acquire buildings owned by Google, which are closer to LinkedIn's headquarters in Sunnyvale.
The net result of that is that Google's now my landlord, and the deal has closed. But Google had made some promises to me when LinkedIn were looking to purchase the property. At the time, they said they'll pay the property tax for me so that I'm not going to be forced out. Google were obviously peeved when LinkedIn won the competition. This is my perception. This is solely my point of view. So they did what Google did. They were going to help me pay the property tax if that was what was required to prevent LinkedIn building. Since they acquired the property 6 months ago, I have not received a property tax bill. I certainly hope I don't receive them because they've told me I wasn't going to. But having said that, they also asked me to give up half the time I have left remaining on the lease.
Do you feel like you have a commitment from them that they're not going to?
I couldn't say that. I've trusted them at their word, you know.
Not to belabor, but I'm curious about the property tax. Why not get it in writing?
You think for 1 second that they're going to give it to me in writing? No. I have asked for that. No, that's gentleman's agreement.
So what's the best case scenario?
Best case scenario is that somebody over at Google Real Estate comes and says, okay, we've got this little quarter-acre lot, happens to be right across the road from you. Here's what we'd like you to do. We're going to be building houses where you are, and we're going to be building them really, really fast. We're going to build you a new sports page. We'll have it up in 6 months' time. Everybody will go home on a Friday night one, and then, you know, they'll come back on Monday morning and the old one won't be there. They'll walk across the road to the new one. You know, I own the property. There's a value on owning the rights to that land for 5 years if somebody wants to build on it. It's just that simple. And they've got the means to come and talk to me and solve a lot of my problems and solve a lot of their problems.
What's the worst case scenario?
Well, worst case scenario is that we go till the spring of 2023 when my lease expires. And there is no renewal. And we're not allowed to do month to month or anything like that. So we'd basically have one hell of a party the last week and just sell everything up and walk away. That's basically what it'll amount to. The sports page as an entity will die. You know, it'll die completely, which would be a great shame. It just would be a shame to lose a place that's been there for 40 or 50 years, especially when it's going to be replaced with other cookie cutter bars and restaurants. You know, before you know it, you're going to have TGIF in there and you're going to have McDonald's and all the crap that goes with it. In terms of business, it's, you know, they own the property. They can see out the duration of the lease. I'll walk away. I mean, there's nothing technically wrong in what they're doing. I mean, they're well aware of that. You know, but there'll be a lot of people, both Googlers and otherwise, would be unhappy with it. The fact that we're gone, and probably wouldn't be happy with the people that drove us out. But what can I don't know that for a fact. That would probably be one of the worst case scenarios.
They could say, oh, and by the way, you need to start paying your property tax.
Absolutely could. And we're all in hypothetical at the moment. If the current owner was to come to me and say, you got to start paying right now. Well, first of all, you'd read about it in the newspapers and you'd hear about it on Channel 2 or all this other stuff that goes with it. And then I would make the appropriate decisions then, whether it was worth paying the property tax. You know, I don't really want to work the next 2 or 3 years for next to nothing. I don't even want to go on the road where I don't even want to have to answer the question you're answering, because I'm confident Google's going to do the right thing by me. I've been told certain things and I'm taking people at their word that it's going to be dealt with properly. That's all I can hope for. You know, I do have the faith. I do actually believe in this do no evil. I don't believe somebody's going to make a decision, screw him, whatever, he's gone, blah, blah. I don't believe that's going to happen. That would be very, very disappointing.
That's because Rob has a relationship with the company and many of its longtime employees. For years, every Tuesday, Google has sponsored a happy hour for their new hires, Nooglers, who show up at the sports page bar in their trademark multicolor propeller hats.
And, you know, when Google had their original public offering, where did they have their party? Everybody arrived at the sports page at 5 o'clock. Nobody else was allowed in. We had a great old party for a couple of hours and they all fricked off, you know.
What's the tone of the negotiations? I'm curious, sort of.
I'm not in any form of negotiations with Google at the moment. They reached out to me when LinkedIn were in contract to buy the property. I had somebody's ear. And since they've acquired it, people I've spoken to, they're all pretty cordial, but I know there's a lot of things going on. But I'm getting itchy. I hate this idea of not knowing where I'm going to be in 5 years' time. As it happens, I spoke with Google this morning, the representative, the contact I have, when I knew I was going to meet you. I felt it would be beneficial for everybody concerned if I could have an idea what's going to happen in the future as far as the sports page is concerned. Anyway, so the tone of the conversation was really simple. I think that I can offer a very, very positive PR slant for Google at this moment in time. And that's basically where we left it. So the individual I spoke with said, he'd be meeting some of the representatives and executives and what have you over the Christmas period and would try and bring up the subject. So sometimes you got to figure that, especially these higher up guys in a place like Google, where when I'm busy, I'm doing 25 things a day. They're probably doing 2,500 things a day. I'm not a priority. That I understand. I think it's not on their radar right yet. I reached out because I wanted it to be on their radar. I mean, I'm probably a pain in the ass to my Google contact. I just don't want to fall through the cracks.
The person that you're talking to...
I mean, he specifically introduced himself as a Google contact. He's got the ears of the Google people. I don't know what that means, the ears of the Google people. Anyway, he's got the ears of people that listen.
Do they work for Google, or are they...
No, they're a representative. They're I think they call it plausible deniability, but they're an outside company that works for Google and has worked for Google since day one.
Can I ask what company or whatever?
No, I'm not going to. I couldn't tell you that. I could, but I'd have to kill you. No, and only because I was asked not to tell. Maybe in future times. It's the only little bit of what's the word I'm looking for? I guess a little bit of security I have, a little bit of insider knowledge, so to speak. It's the only little bit I have. I don't want to give away somebody's name and all that stuff and lose that contact, because then I'd be in a worse position than ever, having no direct access. You can well understand. I mean, I have a certain amount of ammunition, for the want of a better term, but I mean, you don't lock and load until there's a problem.
Right.
It's all very well being prepared. Being prepared knows where you're keeping the ammunition and everything else, but you don't lock and load, and you definitely don't fire the first shot. I don't want any part of that. Yeah. I'm hoping that you're going to edit this to make it sound decent. It's not meant to be threatening in any way, means, or form, but it's a reality as well. I think the conversation you and I are having, the best thing that can come out of this, but I'm hoping somebody in Google and all these other companies listens to it and says, "Ooh, okay, Jesus, let's come down out of this freaking high perch executive office and let's go have a beer and talk with this guy." If this becomes a message to Google, this is really, really simple. Come and talk. Let's be reasonable. We can solve all these problems together. But ultimately, I think it's going to be simply a case of Google wants us to be there or they don't. It's really simple. Or, they don't care about it.
Fascinating.
Yeah. No, it's. I mean, I never thought in my lifetime that I'd be in this position. But I mean, I'm basically going to deal probably at some stage with what is probably one of the biggest companies in the world, which is not something I ever anticipated happening.
In the next and final episode of the season, all of the pieces come together as the City Council crafts their once-in-20-year roadmap for the future of Mountain View.
We are about to embark on a momentous journey here. We're planning a new neighborhood in the North Bay Shore.
We'll hear about big dreams for this intersection and neighborhood, as well as the challenges of getting from a grand vision to a concrete reality. Next time on The Intersection. In the meantime, want to hear more? Head to theintersection.fm and click on North Shoreline and Space Park. While you're at it, subscribe on your favorite podcast app. And if you've already subscribed and you like what you've heard, please rate us on iTunes. It really helps new listeners find us. The Intersection is a production of KALW. Ben Trefny is the editor, with an assist from Ashley Ann Krigbaum. Lucy Kang is the associate producer, and it's engineered by Chris Hoff and me. The theme song and music is by Eric Pearson. Projects like this don't just happen. This one was made possible with a grant from the San Francisco Arts Commission and from KALW Humanities, a nonprofit partner of the NEH. Until next time, I'm David Boyer, and this is The Intersection.